What do you think when you hear the word segregation? Black and white newsreel footage, legal battles from the last century, or St. Louis in 2016? Over the past 2 years, we've heard a lot about the importance of having tough conversations about our differences, about race. Tonight, we meet a group getting on a bus and doing something about it, 2 neighborhoods at a time. So stay tuned. Stay Tuned brings together local experts, journalists, civic leaders, and regular people to have tough conversations for a stronger St. Louis. Add your voice to our conversation, and you're at the table as we stay on top of current events and go deeper, bringing more light and less heat to the issues that matter. From the 9 network of public media in Grand Center, this is Stay Tuned. It's not often that a Facebook post about a canceled youth baseball game goes viral, but that's what happened earlier this year to the post of a St. Louis area mom, and the reason that canceled game went viral is central to tonight's show. A Catholic Youth Council team from Mary Queen of Peace in Maplewood decided not to play a game against Our Lady of Lourdes from University City because of the location, Metcalf Park, just north of the Del Mar Loop in University City. It was feared to be too dangerous. Del Mar is seen by many as a long-standing dividing line in St. Louis, and to some, the canceled game just reinforced that divide. Or was it simply a matter of misunderstanding, 2 communities who didn't know enough about each other, allowing stereotypes to take over? Could the situation have been resolved if both communities knew each other better? Tonight we explore a new program called Neighborhoods United for Change that is hoping to do just that. Bring different communities together in an effort to better understand each other and make us stronger together. Welcome to the program, Charles Bryson, Executive Director, Civil Rights Enforcement Agency for the City of St. Louis. Charles, thanks for being here. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Kevin McKinney, the Executive Director of the St. Louis Association of Community Organizations, SLACO, as we hear it. It might have sounded a little extreme when I said segregation in St. Louis 2016 at the top of the show, or is that accurate? What's the state of affairs?
I think to some degree it's accurate. While we do have some neighborhoods there that do have a wide diversity, there are plenty of neighborhoods that don't. And I think one of the things that we wanted to do was challenge residents of the city, neighborhood by neighborhood, to come together, have meaningful conversation, discuss the issues of their neighborhood and the city in total. And I think it's worked extremely well so far.
I want to know, that's what the program is about. I want to know more about this effort, but I want to get your thoughts. Are we segregated?
Yeah, I think that segregation is still alive.
Self-segregation, I guess,
here
to
in
some
St.
degree.
Louis, to some degree. I've been working with some kids that go to WashU and Harris-Stowe State University. They're taking a class called Segregation by Design. They've actually been able to look in different neighborhoods and see how the state, the city government actually designed segregation in these neighborhoods. And the whole idea is that we want those folk as planners to be, and people that will make decisions on how neighborhoods are laid out, to not try to design these neighborhoods with segregation in mind. So yeah, it still exists. I tell you, one of the big things, the way we kind of got started with this, it goes back to when Mike Brown was killed in Ferguson, which is 2014. There were different neighborhoods and different churches and different communities that were having conversations, and our board of directors decided at the 2014 SLACO conference that we needed to try to bring our neighborhoods into the conversation. And there was an event, that was when I think St. Louis was turning 250 years or whatever, and we had a contest. And this actually came out as the winner of the contest to talk about bringing neighborhoods together. People that live in the north, or maybe the far north, coming a little bit south, or people that live far south, coming a little bit north, to bring those communities together to talk to one another. Because what people are seeing on Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, they're hearing all the bad things about the neighborhoods. They're hearing where the murders, the drug deals and all that are going down, but they really need to drill down a little deeper, and they'll find out that basically the people that live in those neighborhoods are looking for the same things. Everybody wants to get their kids educated. They want a nice place to live. They want good, solid work, and they want to live in a nice neighborhood. So we made an effort to try to bring those neighborhoods together to start discussing those issues, and we needed some money to make that work.
And
So
it's called Neighborhoods United for Change.
Neighborhoods United
we
for
said it in
Change.
the open, but I want to make sure that we haven't.
And that's why.
And it's a whole other show to talk about the shortcomings of the news and how we do things. But I have to say, out of passion and sincerity, though, that those are real conversations happening where my day job is over at Channel 5 about crime is a part of our community. It can't not be covered, but it needs context. I think is what you're saying.
Well, and what we're seeing is the neighborhoods are having now context of, well, I now know this neighborhood better because I've been there, I've seen the people. We do a tour. So the way the day functions is we get there at Slaco office at 8:30. We have a beginning conversation. People pair up with each other from the different neighborhoods. We then tour both neighborhoods, and then we have a facilitated lunch. And so that gives people a lot of time to have conversation. What's going on with your neighborhood? Where are your schools? Where are your parks? What shape are your parks in? Are they mediocre? Are they good? Is there a play area for kids? It's a great way to have individual conversations within the context of a larger conversation for these people in the neighborhoods. And that's what's exciting about this is almost everyone to a person has said, we want more of this. This should have happened sooner. How can we continue this conversation with not only this person, because I've seen a lot of phone numbers exchanged, but how can we consider this as a conversation of neighborhood and neighborhood? And so we've seen that in each and every case. In fact, it is difficult. We do 8:30 to basically 1 o'clock. We have people staying, talking, even after all the facilitated conversation is over. They really want this, they want to stay engaged, and they want to be informed.
Why are you having that? Is there any intent behind having that conversation even before the tour, before they even go see the different neighborhoods?
Not really.
No.
Well, not really.
It's a way of introducing the day
Yes.
to people and getting them to understand that at the end of the day, here's what we're looking for.
And with SLACO being the neighborhood organization, the group that deals with neighborhoods, we make it really easy for the 30 neighborhoods that we work with to be a part of this. People really feel comfortable about SLACO's role as not trying to be pushy or not trying to force issues or ideas, but allow the neighborhoods to try to come together. So when we were able to explain what we wanted to do to our neighborhoods, they were like all in favor of it because they knew that SLACO kind of brought that safe haven where they wouldn't have to worry too much about being pricked a whole lot. But people are actually looking forward to talking to somebody that they probably never would talk to before, actually visiting the neighborhood of a neighborhood that they've never been in, or a neighborhood that they never probably will go into. Now that they've visited that neighborhood, now that they've talked to those people, they want to continue those relationships. So it becomes my job to try to figure out a way that we can do this again and again and again, to try to bring in additional neighborhoods, but to also allow those neighborhoods that have started talking to each other to continue the conversation. So we feel it's a great thing. We feel it's a great thing.
And just so everybody's understanding, they actually then get on a bus and go visit, and then each neighborhood gets to kind of show off their neighborhood, give it a little tour to the other folks. Is that fair?
Absolutely,
Good
yes.
and bad. Good and bad. Okay, they're going to see some vacant properties. They're going to see why, and this works kind of through the Korea deal, is that it's about housing as well. They get to look at the housing stock that's in a particular neighborhood. They get to actually visually see some vacant properties that are there. And the conversation is, well, why are these vacant? And my neighborhood, we don't have any vacant properties. Why is that? Okay. Then they get to see where, well, I heard here that the property was really run down and bad, but I'm looking, I see some nice buildings here. So there's some real open discussions when it comes to the housing stock. We talk about the parks, why this park looks as good as it does, why this park maybe looks as bad as it does. And that gives people an idea. If I want my park to look a little better, I might have to take a little ownership in that. I know the city's trying to do what they can do, but maybe we as a neighborhood might have to adopt this park and do something with it. So it's a good give and take conversation.
And we
all the
also
way
talk
around.
about the commercial development, and people see in some neighborhoods there's a lot of commercial development. It may look like a grouping of single shops, but in some neighborhoods you don't have that commercial development. And why did that take place? The one thing I will say is when we began to go down this road, we said no politicians. We just want people talking to other people.
No politicians
No
on the tour.
politicians on
No
the
electeds
tour.
on the
No
tour.
elected officials on the tour.
No electeds.
And people feel more comfortable that way because they don't have to defend a particular alderman or committeeman or state representative or anybody. It's just people talking to other people.
Did you have to go out, drum up some interest in this? Was it an advertising campaign behind it, or did people?
Slaco did a wonderful
really.
job. They really
Slaco,
did.
Was there a pent-up
Yeah.
desire to some degree?
When we came out of the 2014 conference, which we'll be holding our 21st annual conference October 29th, it'll be at Harris-Stowe State University. When we came out of our 2014 conference, that was a big issue that the neighborhoods wanted to see happen. So the interest was there. It started waning a little bit because it took us 2 years to actually put the program together and get our funding in place to make it work. You got to pay for food, you got to pay for the bus, you got to pay for the facilitators. So I mean, it's kind of an expensive endeavor for 7, 8, 9 different outings. Okay, so we had to get that in place. Once we got that in place, and I sent out the call to the neighborhoods, they were just like snapping it up. I mean, they were ready to go. And then we wanted to kind of broaden and bring in some non-SLACO member neighborhoods, and they jumped at it as well. Yeah. So it's been well received by the neighborhoods.
You've got
Casey, real quick, one of the things from us is the mayor on August 3rd announced he wanted to make racial equity a central part of his last term. And so this is, for me, we're looking at having a conference where we're talking about racial equity. So what you talked about in terms of the housing stock and the livability of neighborhoods, how did that play out early in St. Louis so that we may have racial segregation in some areas, and what does that look like? So I think for us, we're going to look at this as how do we move forward? How do we consider racial equity a key part of what we're going to do, not only now, but in the future, in the next budget cycle as well?
Are you going to expand? I think we have 80. Is it 80 neighborhoods in the city?
79.
79 neighborhoods.
So yeah, we have a little way to go, but
A
we'll
little way
get
to
there.
go. So, but the plan is to grow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, absolutely,
definitely,
absolutely.
definitely.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're going to hear from some people who took the time to take this tour. But first, producer Justin Hartman went along with the crew this past weekend to see the tour firsthand to give us a look at what it's like.
Although just over 5 miles separate the Lewis Place neighborhood in North St. Louis and the Holly Hills neighborhood in South St. Louis, that distance spans more than just geography. And Neighborhoods United for Change is working to reduce the social distance, make neighbors out of different neighborhoods through guided tours. This week, our tour started in Lewis Place, home to St. Louis's oldest African-American owned street and also the location for the historic Shelley versus Kramer court case that struck down the practice of restrictive covenants, which prevented blacks from owning property or even living in the neighborhood. After a quick drive down Kings Highway, we arrived at the Holly Hills neighborhood, home to many elected officials, and Carondelet Park, the third largest park in the city. Parks and history aside, this tour was about much more than sightseeing. The confined seats of a school bus made for intimate conversations. Why are things the way they are in St. Louis? So often divided. Black or white, north or south, the program hopes to bridge the gap between neighborhoods and what they think they know about each other, opening lines of communication, one tour at a time.
Okay, so let's talk to some of the folks who've actually taken part of this. Let me introduce who we've got at the table now. Angela Sears-Spittle, you're a facilitator. You're helping these tours actually happen for Neighborhoods United for Change. Alvin Willis participated in the tour. Yes. Thank you for being here. And Carol Johnson, you did as well. Thank you both for being here. I'll open it up to you first, maybe. What motivated you? What made you want to take the time, get up on a Saturday, and go take a tour of another neighborhood? Tell us where you live and where you went.
Okay. I live in the Lewis Place neighborhood, have been there almost 40 years, have been a member of SLACO for probably that long. SLACO was born in the Lewis Place neighborhood at the Visitation Church. And so I felt committed to be a part of what I see as a solution to some of the problems that we see citywide.
So you were on the tour to Holly Hills.
Yes.
What did the tour do for you?
Well, it gave me an earful.
A good one, I hope.
Yeah, a good earful. It gave me an earful because I heard many comments. Some were like, wow, did they really say that? Do they really think that? I believe that there were thoughts and ideas that were changed on the tour. Perhaps some of mine were too. So, and I think that's a good thing because we found a lot of common areas, and yet, of course, we saw a lot of differences as well.
Mr. Willis, same question to you. How was the tour for you?
Well, I thought the tour was great, and I joined it because I thought it would be a good opportunity for the north side and the south side to see each other. It's amazing how many people have never been north of Delmar and how many people have never been to Holly Hills. And so we had the opportunity to show them our neighborhood, to show them the institutions that we have, like Rankin Tech, 100 Black Men, all of the churches that we have. And we had an opportunity to show them that our neighborhood north of Delmar is really in a position to rebound and to revitalize. And I think to see the difference between the two neighborhoods was something that each of us needed to do. So I thought it went very well.
Were people surprised by what they found in your neighborhood?
I think they were. I think they were surprised by the architect and by the size of our houses. When we went to Holly Hills, the Holly Hills neighborhood is more compact with less of vacancy and smaller homes. And that's one of the things that really disturbs me is to see the decline in our neighborhood and to see the abandoned, the vacancies, and also to see the number of homes that are being torn down that are just architecturally beautiful. And so they had a chance to see that. But we also had a chance to show them the Delmar Divide. And in fact, we only went one block south of Delmar, and you could immediately see the difference. And so I think that was impressive to them. Yeah. So I think many of the people in Holly Hills saw north of Delmar for the very first time, but they all, and I think it changed some perceptions because I think a lot of them thought that this is a neighborhood that's really gone and it's gone forever, but our neighborhood is not. We have wonderful people that live there, we have great institutions, and we all are working together to make our neighborhood better.
A lot of history, but not just history.
And a lot of good history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this is indicative of other tours you've been on?
It is. We've had 4 so far, and overwhelmingly the response from all of those has been that people learned new information across all the tours. They said that they learned new information. They said that they saw more similarities than they expected. There are differences, but they saw a lot of similarities, and that they wanted to keep it going. They wanted to keep the conversations, the relationships, the interaction going. They wanted more.
Why is this? What is it about this simple tour, a half of a day, that is so impactful to people?
I think it's a powerful thing. I don't know what you guys think, but even for people who had been in the other neighborhoods to go from one right to the other, really, I think, has an impact on a lot of people and surprised people. That the similarities and differences really stand out when you do it so quickly, one right to the next. I think that was part of it.
Something about that drive on Kings Highway there, maybe, that actually, that just how close you actually are physically. I don't know.
I think it's also a reflection of how seldom we take time to stop and meet someone new, and how few opportunities we have to do that. That it's really a chance to meet someone completely new. I don't know if you guys felt that way.
Yeah, and we had an opportunity to start the discussion on the bus before we started the first tour. We toured Lewis Place first, and then we toured Holly Hills, and then we had lunch and a discussion. So I think the fact that we were able to start the conversation, talk about what we were seeing, and I think that helped a lot.
Is it encouraging, or is it eye-opening and a little depressing to realize that something as simple as seeing a neighborhood is rare and has to be facilitated?
I don't think it's disturbing, but I think it's excellent that it did happen, and it continues to happen, and there are plans for it to continue happening into the next year. I think that whenever we go away on vacation, when people ask us, where are you from? We say we're from St. Louis. And so I may not live on Holly Hills Boulevard, but I'm from St. Louis. And I think that was pretty much some of the thinking there too. We're all from the same place. St. Louis is our home, and we really do need to be part of the solution to make it better for all of us, because St. Louis sometimes gets a pretty bad rap in many, many ways on media coverage. And so it's good for us to know each other as neighbors. We may not live next door, but our neighborhoods are next door. And so it's very important for us to continue these conversations. But then, of course, we also need to include, and how are we going to pull neighborhoods up that need some strengthening? And how are we going to inform the people in the stronger neighborhoods that if they don't maintain, if they don't communicate, some bad things can happen there as well.
I'll just mention another area I saw of great hope. One was a quote that came out of the last tour. Someone wrote down, "I believe I met a new friend today," which to me was a great indication of hopefulness, right? Hope for the future. Another reason I saw a lot of hope was that on all of the tours, people have been very eager to have authentic conversations. And that's not easy to do. These are strangers, they've been together for an hour, and we're asking them to have tough conversations about systemic racism and income gaps and different things like that, and they have all engaged in that conversation eagerly and willingly. And that's not a small task. I found a lot of hope in that.
Well, I had someone from the Holly Hills neighborhood to call me yesterday to get the contact information for the person that she had the conversation with. So she wants to continue that conversation, and I think that's good. I think that's good.
Yeah.
But I think what they also saw was that North St. Louis needs investment, and that's what's really holding us back. And also the loss of population is not helpful, and I think they saw that Holly Hills has not had the loss in population like we've had north of the Delmar Divide.
Can you put a value on how important it is that a person now has a friend instead of a vacant lot to think about? Is that the goal, I would imagine, when you're talking about investment in north of the Delmar Divide? Hopefully a person now has a friend instead of an image of a rundown building.
Yeah, and I think that contact will lead to a change in your perception. Because I think, as they say, perception is reality. And I think a lot of people who live north of the Delmar Divide, they simply believe that all of North St. Louis is dead, not worth going to, will never bounce back. And that's not true. I mean, I remember, I've been on Lewis Place for 25 years. We also did a tour of the 3-block area of Lewis Place and showed them the difference in the neighborhood and architect. And I think what people have found is that it can change, and it will change, but it will take people and investments and other factors to make it change. And I think that helped to change that perception.
Who do you want on this tour? Do you need college kids? Who do you have and who do you want?
That's a good question. And in the most recent tour, we had several comments that they wanted to see younger people engaged and involved. In other tours, there was maybe more of an age variety on the tours, and in this tour, we did hear that. But I think Carol made the point earlier, she and I were talking, and she's made the point that you have to come with an open mind. And I think regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of anything else, we want people with an open mind who are willing to engage in the tough conversations and have their opinions changed.
At a time when we can very easily, we all know, we know the stats, or we see it anecdotally, we stay in our own little silos. Are you glad you got out of yours?
Yes. I'm glad I got out of mine. I'm glad I got a chance to actually proclaim we're about to cross the Great Delmar Divide. And I think that many people were surprised to see that we had many positives in the Lewis Place neighborhood. And that was a good feeling to say, and look, here we have, and here we have, and here we have. I think that it's always good to get out of the box and look around and see how what other people are doing might help you to improve where you are. So that's a good thing.
But I also think that we have to realize that the tour itself and the conversation that we had, the one incident, is not the solution.
Right.
But it is the beginning. And that most things start with a conversation. And then you're able to go from there and to make the improvements that you need. So I think that we all believe and recognize that it will take more than just one bus tour. So that's why we're looking ahead to do other things and to continue.
We'll leave it there. Alvin Willis, Carol Johnson, and Angela Sears-Spittle, thank you all very much.